Hello, everybody.
And welcome to Two Girls, One Ghost.
Two girls, one ghost.
How did it feel?
It felt really good.
I'm glad you tried it.
I might need to steal this chair from my mother's home so that I can do that every time. No, I would get old. Everyone would be like, why does she keep doing that weird chair spin thing?
It's her thing. It's her signature move. Leave her alone.
Let me live my life. Speaking of, we are your ghostesses. That's Corinne. I'm Sabrina.
Hello.
And this is an encounters episode where you email us all of your encounters with the paranormal, the strange, the oddities, cryptids, whatever the heck it might be that is very strange and unusual about this world that we do not understand, but we so desperately desire to comprehend and explore. And we read them back to you.
Yes, we do. Do you want to start?
I do, because I have an update. So,
how lucky are we? We don't often get updates.
I know. So back in Encounters 222, and I think this is like a kind of a cool benefit of batch recording like this, is that we can get a response. And because I know we're recording the next day, I'm like, oh, I'm going to read it in this one, even though it's a couple episodes apart. In Encounters 222, which came out on March 14th, there was a story from our listener, Cameron. It was all about Fred and this invisible friend that she had growing up called Fred, who didn't like Cameron being friends with anyone else and didn't like when Cameron's mom or grandmother or anyone talked about him. But then Fred
possessive
continued to appear to Cameron at different phases of her life, like when she moved to a new state by herself for the first time. He kind of simply just appeared. So then Cameron responded, "Thank you so much for reading my story. I was hoping you guys would get a kick out of my spooky kid self. Yes, my parents were definitely in fear of Fred, but as of what I can remember, he was nothing to be afraid of. I recently just had my first baby in November of 2023, and her name is Avery. She is the light of my life.
Cute.
Corinne, I'm so excited for you. You're going to be such an amazing mother."
Thank you. Tell me nothing about childbirth. I want to be
It's
surprised.
better to not know, I think, because you have to go through it no matter what.
I know. That's the stuff I'm not researching.
Yeah, I was going to say you of all people. But early on in my pregnancy, before I found out the gender, I had a dream and Fred reappeared. So I was upstairs in my room and I heard a man talking and a baby crying. The man sounded like my dad, who had sadly passed away unexpectedly in October of 2022 from an overdose. In my dream, I got up and I walked over to the banister by the stairs where I could look over and into my living room. It was there that I saw my dad and a man with dirty blonde hair and a blue shirt. Remember, Fred had dirty blonde hair and always wore the same blue shirt. So is it Fred?
Oh.
I called out, "Where's my baby?" And the boy in the blue shirt turned around holding a white blanket swaddling a baby. I couldn't see the baby's face, but I knew that the baby was mine. I could feel it in my stomach. My dad was sitting on the couch, looks up to me and says, "She's perfect." Keep in mind, this is before I even knew the gender. I woke up. I was shaking and sweating. It felt so real. I can still see my dad and the man in the blue shirt, who I choose to believe is Fred, holding my baby. I really do like to believe that Fred is there with me, protecting me and showing up for my big life events. And now my dad is too. Sharing that sweet little secret of the gender days before I even found out from the doctor.
Oh, I have chills for one, because it's so beautiful to experience that, and then to kind of have the confirmation later from the doctor, and like just knowing that your dad met your child before. Yeah, there's just so much to talk about there, but I'm kind of conflicted on Fred, because before I think I was kind of freaked out at the sort of possessiveness that Fred was showing, the encouragement to like separate her from everyone else, where it's like, don't talk about me, don't tell other people about me, it's just me and you, baby. But now that her dad is there, I feel like if Fred were this kind of ominous, nefarious entity, there's no way in hell her dad would have let him near her, one, and let him touch her baby, like hold her baby.
Yeah, I agree. This, I think, is confirmation to me that Fred is absolutely a good spirit, despite the like ominous feelings. And it does make me question a little bit about guardian angels, because if we remember from Encounters 222, when we read the first part of Cameron's story, Fred kind of grew up with Cameron and appeared at the age that Cameron was in different phases of Cameron's life.
Yeah, I remember that. I don't know what to make of it.
But this one's beautiful.
I feel like Cameron has to figure it out. Like it's a mystery and a puzzle piece for Cameron.
But it does seem like Cameron really likes to believe that Fred is good. So we're going to go with that. And now Avery has extra guardians.
Yes,
I wonder if Avery...
and how sweet.
Can you imagine if Fred starts to hang out with Avery?
My gosh. The imaginary friend.
The imaginary
I can't remember.
Fred.
Did Fred say his name was Fred or did Cameron give him the nickname Fred?
I can't remember. I think she started calling him Fred, but I don't think she clarified if he told her his name was Fred. But when her mom had asked who she was talking to, she said Fred.
Okay. Even if he didn't say his name was Fred and it was just something Cameron did when she was younger to assign a name to her imaginary friend, it does make me think that at the very least, if Avery starts to see him, she'll say like, oh, he said that you called him Fred. You know, like he's aware enough of his own relationship with her.
Yeah, I agree. I almost wonder, like, you know how when kids try to relay something that they heard, they say it incorrectly. Like, I wonder if he said, I'm a friend, and she was trying to say to mom, my friend, but it came out as Fred.
My Fred. Yeah, that's true. Or if she even just like misheard him.
Right.
And was like, oh, he's telling me his name is, I'm a Fred. This is what Freds look like.
Dirty blonde hair and blue shirts. All Freds.
This is it. Oh my gosh. How great that we got an update.
I know. I love getting updates. This is a call to action to all of you. If we email you asking you questions about your email or for updates, please respond. You can just respond right to our email that we send you because we want to know. We do truly, genuinely want to know. Otherwise, we wouldn't bother emailing you back. Truly. Takes time.
Truly. But if your email is read on the podcast, we do email you to let you know that it was read.
We do.
And we tell you what the episode title is or like what number it is so you can find it.
Yeah, exactly.
In case you stopped listening years ago and then you're like, oh shit, they read my thing. I want to listen. We don't make it that hard for you to find it.
It's our way of pulling you back in.
Come back into the triangle. I have an email. This is called The Time I Accidentally Taught a Child About Ghosts.
Okay.
Hi all, my name is Anna. I am a newish listener, I think October of 2023, and was introduced to your podcast either directly by Morbid or by Morbid by way of National Park After Dark. In any case, I'm happy to have you spooky ladies in my life.
We're happy you're here.
Yes. To set the stage, I work as a speech-language pathologist, and at the time of the story, I worked with both kids and adults. When working on language with kids, I loved using themes. So when Halloween rolled around, the whole clinic was decorated, and I was using various Halloween-themed window clings and toys during therapy sessions.
I love it.
Now the incident. I frequently worked with minimally speaking kids or kids with language delays, and in this instance, the kid that I was working with was about 3 or 4 and had about 15 words. I was modeling the window clings as they put them up on the window, and I said, I see a witch. Ooh, I see a pumpkin. I see a cat. I see a ghost. Boo. And what word did this kid pick up by the end of the session? Yep, ghost.
Which is not an easy word to say.
No. They're like, finally a word to explain what I've been experiencing.
Yeah. I can relate to this word.
Yeah. By the time they left, they were saying, see ghost or look ghost. So I did my job, but I felt so bad. I looked at their mom and I was like, I am so sorry. I hope they don't come and wake you up in the middle of the night tonight saying ghost.
This is amazing.
We both laughed a bit and then the mom didn't seem to really care, but I hid the ghost window clings for my next session just in case. To understand how scary this is, imagine your kid who has only said words like mom, more, ball, no, want, slide, coming up to you in the middle of the night and saying, ghost. I'd be believing them, that's for sure. Hope you got a kick out of my story and see you on the other side, Anna.
And that child never returned to Anna again. I'm just kidding.
No, but I love it. If I were that mom, I would never tell anyone that my child's new word was ghost. And I would just let it play out.
Let it loose.
Just for a minute. See what people experience.
That's, like I said, not an easy word to say. The g sound is hard. T is also hard. So if you're that parent, you're like, oh my gosh, amazing. They're saying this new word. I would be stoked. And also, if you're anything like you and I, Corinne, or anyone who listens to this podcast, Anna, you helped like birth the creepy kid.
I'm so curious. Is this a child who loves spooky stories and like Halloween time movies?
Right.
What are their interests? Like, are they finally like, yes, I love ghost stories. I need to learn this word so I can request when I'm trying to watch something.
I think it was meant to be.
Hear another scary story.
This kid is now a creepy kid, and one day we'll be emailing into our podcast saying, I was a creepy kid and couldn't really talk for a long time, went to speech therapy, and the one word I really clinged on to was ghost.
Yeah. One of my first 15 words.
Love it so much.
I think when I have my child, instead of saying like, mommy, daddy, mama, I'm going to say ghost, 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 ghost. Whenever Brian can't hear, I'm like, ghost, 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 ghost.
So Noemi can only really say, she started saying like dada, but she doesn't, it's not really towards Johnny because they call him Papa, but it's just like the way, it's just the sounds that she can say. But it's really funny because at my mom has cats and dogs, or a dog, and she'll chase the animals. And she kind of starts to say cat, which I think is so cute. But sometimes she'll like crawl after Bizu, one of my mom's cats, and say, dada, dada. And I think it's so funny that she's calling a cat dad.
Wait, but Johnny goes by Papa instead of dada?
Yeah.
Is it a like choice because that's how it was in his family, or did they think that would be easier to say?
I think it's like how it was in his family. They're very Italian.
Got it. I did see a video the other day that made me cackle, and it was this woman, and she was like making sure my child says mama first. And it was her in front of her kid holding up a picture of herself, and she was going, mama, mama. And then held up a picture of her husband and went, father, father. Like making it the most difficult.
It's so funny. Oh my gosh.
Oh man.
I think statistically, dada are like the first syllables and words that babies say because it's easier to like form those syllables.
Yeah.
Okay. I kind of picked this story for you and for us because it has a bunch of different things, but it's from our listener, Erica. It's called Near Death Experience-ish, Whole Foods Ghost. That part was for you. Yeah. Bathroom Ghost, and your podcast killed my car. That's for all of us.
Oh my God, there's so much.
Yes. Hello, Ghost Isses. I've been listening to your podcast for about a year now, and I love the encounters. You both make my drives to and from work, or really anywhere, way more entertaining. I have a few stories, but I wasn't planning to share. But after my third paranormal experience in just 1 year, I felt like, you know what? Maybe it's a sign and it's time to send these in.
It definitely is.
Also, I think it's funny that Erica didn't necessarily, maybe Erica in her own life did, but Erica's been listening to our podcast for the last year, and in the last year experienced 3 paranormal encounters. So,
oops.
Oopsie. Okay, my first story is from when I was about 12 years old. It was summertime, and I was sleeping soundly when, in my dream, something told me to wake up. I don't mean I got a thought. No, it was like something or someone yelled at me, wake up.
Oh, gosh.
I was fighting it, but I reluctantly got out of bed. Like I said, it was summertime and about 7 a.m. So as a 12-year-old, waking up that early in the summer was unheard of. But anyway, this feeling was so strong. This voice was so loud. I got up and I walked my dog. And instead of going back to bed, I laid down on my couch. A few minutes later, I heard a loud crash in my room. I walked into my room and saw a car had literally crashed through my wall where my bed was.
You're kidding. Oh my God. Okay, at first, Sabrina, I was thinking it was going to be more like your experience when you were astral projecting and someone said, wake up. Not the spirit truly
literally
saving their lives. Life or lives, because if the dog was in the room too.
Yeah, like 12 years old, saved by a ghost. So wow. I walked into my room and saw a car had crashed through my wall where my bed was. We lived in a ranch-style home, so we were on the first floor and my room faced the street corner. A drunk driver somehow drove between a monument and the street sign on the corner straight into my room. Had I slept in or stayed in bed, I would have probably died or at least been seriously injured. I don't know what or who woke me up, but oh my gosh, I am grateful that they did.
And so good that, not only woke her up, but like there was enough of an energy or vibe around that she was like, okay, well, it's time for me to like get up. It's not just like, okay, I'm awake. I'm going to scroll on my phone or like read a book in bed for the next 2 hours.
like fully leave your bedroom.
Fully leave.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
My other stories have occurred since listening to your podcast. So thanks, I guess. Okay, Erica did put it together. So first, I was listening to your podcast in my car through Bluetooth. And this is important. I was sending a text. And as you know, when you send a text and it's on Bluetooth, you can hear your sent tone, like the whoosh sound when your text sends. And as I sent a text, that sound just kept repeating over and over and over in the speakers as you both continued to speak. Suddenly, one of you said, "Wait, what's happening?" in a concerned tone. And all of the audio in my car cut out.
No.
The display screen went black in my car and it just went silent.
Ew.
Weird.
It's like we're haunting. We don't even know that we're haunting something else too. And we're a part of it. Being like,
right.
It's the three of us together being haunted by this noise. What's happening?
What's happening? Which does make me wonder, like sometimes when we experience hauntings or weird things when we're recording, is it actually like something in a later timeline, like the texts Erica was sending, causing something to happen to us, which then causes something to happen to Erica? Is this all some weird cycle?
I don't know. It does feel like it happens very often, though.
Also, this is Dada Bizu.
Oh, hi, Dada.
Did you hear me talking about you? My next story, I was picking up groceries from Whole Foods, and the pickup associate came to my car and asked, "How are y'all today?" I said, "I'm fine," wondering why he said y'all, because it was just me in my car, but yeah, whatever. He comes back to my front seat window after loading my grocery and gives me a weird look and says, "Wait, were you alone in your car this whole time?" I said, "Yes." And he says, "Don't be scared because this has happened with me before, but I saw someone in the passenger seat next to you, an older woman who looks kind of like you." Again, weird. And we just went about our days.
This is like bad for me to say, but I feel like the fact that he said an older woman would immediately make me think it's less scary. But if he was just like, "I saw someone in your passenger seat," I would be terrified, not knowing.
Right.
But a little old lady, I'm like, any ancestors? I don't know. Who?
Well, now I also want to talk to this Whole Foods employee because clearly they are medium.
I know.
Finally, this last one happened a few days ago. I was in the bathroom at my part-time job. These stalls have slatted wooden doors that you can sort of see through, but not really. Anyway, I was finishing my business and I saw a shadow pass swiftly between the stall in the direction of the other stalls and the wall. I thought nothing of it until I came out and realized nobody was there. No one's in either stall, and there was nowhere that the shadow could have gone. Then, thinking further, I heard no doors open or close to come in or out of the bathroom. So I go to my coworker and ask/tell her what happened. Mind you, it's my third day, and she confirms that happens all the time, and our office is haunted AF. So there's that.
Of course.
Anyway, thanks for the spooks and the laughs and everything else you do. Hope you enjoyed my story. Here are a couple photos of my silly fur baby, Kobe. This is from Erica.
I love the pet tax. Everyone has to send us a cute picture after telling us a scary story.
Yes.
Okay, well, here's the thing. I feel like there's so many experiences we can't possibly be blamed for most of them.
Sure. I'm curious if the voice that Erica heard when she was 12 years old that literally saved her life from this car was a woman's voice, and if it could be the same spirit that the guy at Whole Foods saw in her car. Like, is there this guardian that's always watching over Erica?
And then also this makes me think, and it's something that we'll never have an answer to, but it's like when her car was completely turned off and it was that noise happening and then the, wait, what's happening? And then the car just shuts off. Was the car shutting off? Did that prevent her from, like, how many moments did it take for her to collect herself and either get out of the car or start the car and continue on her journey? Because it's also one of those things where it's like, was that an example of her life being saved? Had
intervention?
Had there not been those few moments of confusion and whatnot, something else could have happened.
It does feel like there's a lot of car protection. Aside from the last story, everything involved the car.
That's true. Sprinkle some of that on Sabrina.
Although recently we had the epiphany that perhaps it was a past life death.
We did.
So,
and also it's interesting that like the second you try to get a car and start driving the car basically breaks down and you have to send it to the shop.
Well, it didn't
You're
break
not allowed
down.
to drive.
I'm still driving it. It's still squeaking 5 months later because Ford, I'm going to at you right now, Ford. Fix my car. Fix my car. I mean, business.
That should not be happening. It's a new car.
It should not.
Okay. I'm not going to read the subject line because I feel like it gives it away.
Okay.
Hello, ladies. My name is Brianna, and I've been dying to write in and tell you my best friend's story. I've been listening for about a year now, starting at the very beginning and currently listening to Encounters number 137. Woo, you almost caught up.
Wow.
Love everything about you ghouls and the podcast. Please never stop. So here we go. And this might be long because I feel like telling her story deserves every detail possible.
Oh.
My best friend's name is Cheyenne. Our moms were friends before we came into this world, so we were literally best friends since birth. We were 3 months apart, and calling us best friends is really an understatement because this girl was my sister. We called each other soulmates because we were, and we were so completely different from each other, and growing up, everyone would be so confused as to how we, out of all people, were best friends.
I love that so much.
Yeah. Brianna writes, but that was my bitch, my soulmate. Cheyenne died May 4th, 2019 at 23 years old as a passenger in a terrible car crash.
Jeez.
Her boyfriend was driving her and his son, who was in the back seat. They were heading to town when a storm literally came out of nowhere, making it impossible to see the road. They hydroplaned going into the median and back into the road when a school bus ran over their entire car.
Oh my gosh.
Her boyfriend died on impact. The whole right side of Cheyenne's body was crushed. She held on for a few minutes after the crash. Her boyfriend's son in the back was alive, and he walked away from the accident with minimal injuries, just some scratches and a concussion. After the crash, people came running to their car to check on everyone, and a man started to help Cheyenne, but she told him, no, help Mason, the boyfriend's son. And the man checked the back seat and told her that Mason was alive and he was okay. And that's when my best friend let go, and she took her last breath. She loved that little boy as her own, and she held on until she knew that he would be okay.
Oh my gosh.
When all of this happened, I know. My whole body is just like covered with goosebumps right now. When all of this happened, I was less than a 5-mile drive from her, and my fiance at the time and I were driving when we hit that same storm. And the storm lasted all of maybe 10 minutes, if that. I was talking to my fiance about how much I loved Cheyenne's laugh and how it was one of my favorite things to hear. And like I said, she's my soulmate. Not even a minute later, I got the news that she was gone. My whole world crashed around me, and I didn't believe it. I couldn't. I called her phone and she didn't answer, and I called 2 more times and nothing. I called her sister. Her sister's boyfriend answered. Brianna? I said, Christian, please tell me she's okay. I'm so sorry, but she passed. All I could do was scream. My fiance was freaking out and didn't know what to do, so he drove me to my mom's house, and I had to tell my family that she was gone, and we all lost a family member that day. Retelling this gives me full body chills. It was the worst moment of my life to date. But thankfully, even though she physically left me with her passing, my best friend stayed around and found ways to let me know that she was with me. The first time was a dream that my mom had. Cheyenne came to her in her child form, and my mom heard her laughing and started calling her name. When she found her, Cheyenne said, hey, Aunt Barbara. And my mom said, hey, baby, we miss you. Brianna really misses you. She's hurting so bad. And Cheyenne giggled and then said, I love Brianna. And my mom said, I'm worried about her. She doesn't know how to live without you. And then Cheyenne said, tell her, make it funny, bitch. And then laughed again. And my mom woke up.
Oh, I love that she's still so true to like her personality in the afterlife.
Yes.
And despite the devastation and the sadness and knowing that Brianna's hurt, she's like, come on, bitch.
Just live your little silly life, bitch.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, she's still communicating and trying to like communicate with her the way that she did when they were alive together. I was driving when my mom called to talk to me and make sure that I was okay, and she told me about her dream. I immediately pulled over and told her to repeat that last part. My body went cold. Why? Well, because 1 week before she passed, she sent me a meme, and it said, when I die, let my best friend write my eulogy because they knew me better than anyone. And I responded to her, make it funny, bitch. The night after her funeral, my fiance and I were watching Netflix in our bedroom when he decided to go and make himself something to eat. In the house, I had this big mirror hanging in the living room, and from the kitchen, if you looked at that mirror, you could see the couch in the living room. And this is important. Not even 2 minutes after my fiance went to go make food, he was crawling back in bed and snuggled up to me, and I asked him what he was making, and he told me he hadn't yet. I asked him why, and he said, I got freaked out. And I asked him what happened, and then he tells me that while he was in the kitchen, he randomly looked at the mirror and he saw Cheyenne sitting on the couch, and she just smiled at him. Obviously, he wasn't expecting it, so it did scare the shit out of him, but it was her way of letting me know that she was there, and I love her so much for that.
That, like, I felt it in my stomach.
Yeah. I also love that he, like, crawls back into bed and just is holding her, and he's like, maybe I don't have to talk about what I just experienced, but immediately she's like, why are you in here? Explain yourself, boy.
Oh my gosh.
Another time I was having a dream and it was me and her sitting on my bed talking to my sister there and hers too. Me and her were goofing around and laughing like we always did, and it felt so real. I wasn't processing that she was dead and that it was only a dream until she went to say something about our sisters and they ignored her, like she hadn't even said anything at all. And I said, you know, they can't hear you. And then she smiled at me and said, I know. And that was the moment that it hit me that she was dead and this was a dream. And all I could say back was, I love you so much. And she told me she loved me back with a smile. And then I woke up. A few months after her passing, I was sleeping in bed with my fiance when I randomly woke up in the middle of the night. And I felt like someone was standing in my doorway, but I couldn't see anyone there. But I did feel her energy. I could see her in my head, but my eyes couldn't see her at all. I felt her standing there. And then she walks into my room around to the side of the bed that I was at, slowly, like she wasn't trying to scare me. And then I felt her touch my hand and I just started crying. And I said out loud, thank you. I love you so much.
Oh.
In 2020, I got pregnant with my fourth kid. With each child, I did this hair and ring test where you have a thread and you piece a thread of your hair through the ring. You dangle it over your hand on a table and it's supposed to tell you how many kids you'll have and the sex of each child in order by the direction that it swings. I did this too. My mom did it to me and it was wrong.
But I feel like I've heard people do that. Like that's like a trend. A lot of people do that. I've never done it.
Yeah, there's different variations of it. I think it's just something that's like passed down from it can be a little different depending on your families. I've seen some people do it with like a string and a ring over your belly. But the way that my mom does it, which was from her mother-in-law, my dad's mom, passed down was like you have a needle and thread and you drag the needle along your wrist and then hold it up. And then let it go. I don't think you have to be pregnant to do it, but that's the reason why my mom did it to me.
Gotcha.
So the ring test told me that I was going to have children in this order. Boy, boy, girl, boy. At the time of becoming pregnant with my fourth kid, and when Cheyenne had passed, I had 2 boys and a girl in that order. The ring test has always been right for me. So I knew that number 4 was going to be a boy. With no doubt in my mind at all. It's never been wrong, so why would it be wrong now? But to my surprise, at the ultrasound, when finding out the sex of our baby, as soon as the ultrasound tech put that little thing on my stomach, I immediately saw that our baby was a girl. I did the ring test so many times over the years, and it always said the same thing over and over. But that day, after finding out that we were going to have a girl, I went home and I did the ring test. And it said, boy, boy, girl, girl. I told my fiance, this is Cheyenne. She's coming back through our baby. I haven't had any more encounters with my best friend since my daughter has been born.
Whoa.
We gave our daughter the middle name Cheyenne to honor her. So yeah, that's our story of my lifelong best friend dying and coming back as my daughter. She knew that I needed her. There has never been a bond stronger than me and my best friend, and it gives me a lot of peace that she came back and she's with me, and I get to give her a life that she didn't get to have when she was a child. I get to give her the parental love that she never got. I know that my daughter is still my daughter, and I know that she's her own person, but I also know that she carries the soul of my best friend in her as well.
That's amazing.
Thank you for the opportunity to write in and to tell her story. I hope to hear it on the podcast. I hope I did justice for her in writing it. Keep being you and stay spooky, Brianna.
Brianna, one, I'm so sorry for your loss and the heartbreak you have experienced and the pain of losing someone who so clearly is a soulmate of yours. My goodness, not only did she give you and your family and your loved ones so many signs that she was watching over you and still around, and now to feel like she is reincarnated as your daughter is the most beautiful, special thing because you're going to continue to be in each other's lives. You need to be. You will always be.
It's just so powerful, all of the examples and how much she was able to present herself on the other side. And there's something really spooky too about her daughter, not having any more experiences with Cheyenne after Brianna's daughter was born. Because part of me is I do believe that there's a part of Cheyenne in her, especially after the ring test changed after being so spot on and accurate, year after year after year. But then another part of me too is was part of Cheyenne's involvement and activity on the other side, was it because she was also with this child and she was just waiting to bring her into the world for her best friend Brianna? She was protecting her on the other side until she was born and then could be with Brianna.
Right. Speaking of baby, we have a guest on this episode, Noemi.
Noemi's ears must have been ringing from us talking about her earlier.
Yeah, I was talking about her. Did you hear? was talking about Yukon, Bizu, Dada. Maybe you'll say ghosts on this podcast?
Ghost.
She goes home to Johnny and Lexi and is saying ghosts. Okay, well, I have another ghost story, and this one's a little bit creepy, so sorry. This is from our listener, Garrett, and it is called My Family's Own a Conjuring-like Farmhouse.
Ooh.
This is Garrett from the Charleston live show who we met. Hi, Corinne and Sabrina. I'm rewriting this email to you after seeing you guys at your amazing show in Charleston. I was hardcore fangirling, and whoever said don't meet your heroes didn't get to hear them talk about peeing between strangers' cars in the streets of Charleston post-haircut. That was me. I did that. I loved your show about The Conjuring, and I grew up visiting a home that had a few too many similarities. No demon stuff, don't worry. I don't want to give away any details of your live show, so I'm going to keep some of the similarities brief, but I have 2 ghost stories for you, and they come together in the end, so bear with me. These stories are a bit convoluted, so I'm going to do my best to explain. My grandparents own an incredibly old farmhouse about an hour outside of New York City. For privacy's sake and because it's a small town, I'm not going to use anyone's real names, but my family's ghost stories are intertwined with another family's ghost stories.
Ooh.
My family, who I'm going to call the P's, and another family that owned a house down the street, the D's.
P's and D's.
The D's owned a farmhouse before my grandparents bought it. Because they had a family of 10, they had to move to a larger home, which is about a mile down the road. So that is when my grandparents, the P's, bought this farmhouse. The house was built before the Civil War and has a lot of history. The property was massive, they had a lot of acreage, and kind of like the Conjuring house, it was used as a safe haven for slaves in the Underground Railroad. The walls were a maze of hidden hallways, rooms, secret passageways. The house has converted quite a few non-believers, but just hold on a second. We're going to come back to this farmhouse. My family and the D's became the best of friends. Once a week, someone was hosting a dinner party for the parents to gossip and drink and party while all the kids got to do whatever they wanted.
So
My
fun.
mom and aunt were around the same age as the 2 older boys of the D's family. This took place in upstate New York in the 70s, so they had a lot of commercials asking if parents knew where their kids were, and a lot of these dinners took place at the D's. Of course, their house was just as haunted as my grandparents', but hey, they should have been used to some ghosts by this point. The D's hauntings were very different than my family's. Mrs. D was the kind of mother that took no shit. Her household was to be clean, to be organized, and to have zero evidence that 8 kids lived there. Her kitchen was especially important. Everything had a place and was in that place. And because they had so many kids, they truly rotated who got to sleep in the bedrooms and who slept on couches.
Whoa.
It's wild.
That is so crazy.
It kind of reminds me of my Canadian cousins because there were 6 of them. And anytime they would drive down from Canada, they literally showed up in like a massive van, one of those like sliding door vans, panel vans.
A 12-person passenger van.
Literally. After they moved in, Mrs. D would wake up to make herself a cup of coffee before all of the kids got up and prepare herself for the day. To her horror, she turned the corner from the family room to find her kitchen destroyed. Every single pot and pan was laid out on the floor. All the bowls and plates were thrown around. All the silverware was scattered all over the place. And every cabinet door was wide open. As you can probably guess, Mrs. D did not find this amusing. She thoroughly interrogated the kids. Who did this? Who destroyed her kitchen? Which one of you thought this would be a funny joke? No one confessed. And everyone looked as surprised as she was. This went on for months. Every night, they would turn off the lights, lock the doors, kitchen was spotless, and every morning, the kitchen was an absolute mess. The kids were grounded and punished in every way they could be for this, but they all insisted it was not them. So who was it? Okay, so now you have some background on the pranky poltergeists at the D's. I'm going to get back to the neighborhood dinner parties. So while all the parents were catching up and the kids were enjoying playing games, not Monopoly or Scrabble, they were gathering around the dining room table, sitting side by side, kids ranging from the age of 5 to 16, hand in hand with a car battery at the head of the table. And what could they possibly be doing with this car battery, you might ask? They were electrocuting themselves in some made-up seance.
What the fuck?
Here's how the game went.
Oh my God. Children are wild.
So all these kids are sitting around from ages 5 to 16, hand in hand. At the head of the table is a battery. The kids sit on each side of the battery, then grab the jumper cables. They grab the hand of the child next to them, they grab the hand of the person next to them, and so on until the circle is complete. The switch of the battery is turned on, and because they're all holding hands, the person in the middle of everyone at the table gets double shocked as the electricity runs through everyone and smacks the kid in the middle. Weird, but okay. I have a feeling this game started as a way to mess with the younger kids and then weirdly turned into a sort of ritual. As if getting electrocuted was not enough, they also wanted to chant and have a makeshift seance while doing it. I guess it added some dramatic effect.
Yes.
So they would hold hands, they would turn the dial so the electricity would be stronger, and they would chant, Hannah, 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 until the kid in the middle couldn't take the shock anymore. And then they would rotate.
What in the hell? This is one of those kids had science class where they learned about like conduits and the human body and electricity and was like, I know exactly what I'm going to do when I get home.
This is also so wildly unsafe. Please, no one at home try this. The fact that no one got hurt is unbelievable.
Especially because they're trying to electrocute all of themselves at one time, too.
So this group of kids played this game for years. A few years after moving in around the holidays, a small ember wasn't stomped out in the fireplace and the Christmas wreath slipped off the mantle, catching the ember and igniting a huge fire. Half of the D's home was destroyed, but luckily no one was injured. They came back to search through the damage for anything they could salvage, and the boys were looking through what was once the dining room when something under the rubble caught their eye. They start moving the debris and find some kind of stone buried in the ground. They got some of the other kids to help them clean this off, and they were utterly stunned at what they found. Buried under the rubble was a headstone. A headstone of a girl who was buried in the cellar under the dining room. Do you want to know what the name on the headstone was? Hannah.
No! What the fuck? Oh my God. This is awful, but I'm also like, this like sadistic part of me is kind of glad that did happen, because can you imagine the trauma of like losing your childhood home in a fire and then having to go back to it and like dig for anything of sentimental value? I feel like this makes that memory, like it doesn't matter. Your stuff doesn't matter anymore.
We found Hannah.
There's a murder mystery.
So the kids are panicking and understandably losing their shit over this realization, and everything came very clear. It was Hannah who was ruining the perfect kitchen every night, moving toys, giggling well after everyone was supposed to be in bed, hiding car keys, playing her own games on the Ds.
Wow. Mystery solved. I'm also curious, because when this was happening, when they were chanting, Hannah, Hannah, I thought that it was because the child who was being electrocuted's name was Hannah.
No.
But it doesn't matter who's in the middle. They just chant Hannah.
There was no Hannah in this group. They just started chanting the name Hannah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this game is Hannah's idea.
Oh, Hannah for sure possessed one of them. So you might be wondering how this all relates back to my family, the P's. Well, like I said before, this is not the D's first haunting. After my family moved in down the street in the D's old house and activity started again, my aunt was the one who experienced most of it. Her room was at the end of the hallway on the second floor. And like I previously mentioned, this house was filled with secret passageways in the walls. And so if you opened her closet door, moved the shelves and clothes aside, you could find a small door that had been sealed off before they moved in. But it didn't seem to stop whatever or whoever it was behind the door from coming in. The first few weeks of her experiences, she would wake up around 3 a.m. almost every night to the feeling of someone or someone's multiple people at the end of her bed. At first, she would feel them there, terrified, and she wouldn't open her eyes. This went on for a while until one night she finally looked at who was standing at the foot of her bed. And looking back at her was an older woman dressed in a simple dress from the Civil War era and a bonnet. Beside her was a young girl wearing a very similar outfit. And my aunt instinctively knew this was a mother and daughter. They stared back at her for what seemed like an hour, when all of a sudden they both simultaneously reached their right hands up to their face, pulled their bonnets down over their eyes, bowed their heads, and disappeared.
What kind of weird-ass ritual greeting is that?
So strange. Because it's one thing to like tip your hat or tip your bonnet, which I don't think is a thing, but to like cover their faces and like, I don't know.
And then duck down. Oh, I don't like that.
So this happened pretty much every night my aunt lived in that house. Fast forward a few years, my mom is a bit older, I think maybe in college at this point, and my aunt is just about to graduate high school. So they go over to the D's house for another neighborhood dinner, which now happened a little less often because everyone was growing up. Conversation is flowing, and my grandmother makes a small joke about the ghosts that come to my aunt's bed every night. One of the middle sons of the D family, who I'm going to call JJ, yells from across the table, "What did you just say?" And my grandma goes, "Oh, the 2 women who come to the end of her bed every night and stare at her." JJ stands up and yells, "I told you they were real. I told you they would watch me at night, and none of you believed me." Turns out, JJ used to have the room that my aunt had in that same bedroom in that house.
No way.
They also found 2 headstones in the cellar of my family's farmhouse, but never found out who they belonged to. I have so many more stories from this house, and my aunt is 100% a psychic of some kind. She sees ghosts everywhere, has predicted the future multiple times, and is just the coolest. She also has an alien experience, Sabrina, so I'll ask her about it and write it in later. Thank you so much. I love you. Attached is the video my aunt took last year of some orbs at the farmhouse. See you on the other side, Garrett.
Dang. I mean, it sounds like the land is super haunted. Like everyone in this community just remains. But I am curious too. So these are 2 different houses with 2 different gravestones that are in the cellar. I don't know anything about the history of burials and traditions and stuff like that. But was there a reason in this area for everyone to bury the dead in the cellar versus outside?
The only thing I can think of is if here are 2 things I can think of. Was this in the winter and it was far too cold to dig?
Yeah, because the ground is frozen.
Yeah. And then alternatively, is this a part of the house that was added much later? And so the cellar was built on top of graves that they didn't know about?
I don't know, but that is peculiar because it does seem like everyone who was buried inside of the house stays in spirit form.
Yeah, I'm curious about this mother-daughter duo because it seems like they do the exact same thing. They don't do much else except for just stare and watch whoever lives in that room sleep.
I guess they have good fun too with their creepy little synchronized head dips and whatnot.
Right. Both with the right hand at the same time.
It is so creepy. Although I'm glad that their cousin got the confirmation that what he had been experiencing was accurate and true. And yes. I mean, it sounds like he knew it was, but he was just waiting for other people to be like, yes, we believe you.
Also, I'm so curious if the D's, the family with the messed up kitchen, if Mrs. D ever acknowledged the fact that it was a ghost doing this. And then if after the fire it stopped. At what point did the kitchen... Because how frustrating. I would truly be like, I'm not putting away any of this stuff ever again. I'm storing all the kitchenware in a different room because to move is a pain in the butt. But once you've unpacked and settled in and you don't have to think about moving or repacking, unpacking ever again, it's great.
Yeah.
The fact that every night and every morning it was out and you had to reorganize and re-put it away.
I mean, obviously this was Hannah, but I am curious in terms of the game that was being played. Was this Hannah just joining in on a game that was already existing? Did she plant some ideas in their minds? Or was Hannah trying to permanently get some friends to play with by electrocuting and killing all of those kids?
Well, I don't have an answer for you, but I'm glad that Hannah's plan, if it was that, didn't work.
Well, because it was electrocution and then it was fire. So maybe Hannah's completely innocent, but I don't know. There's some things, and I'm getting a little suspicious of Hannah and her activities within the home.
But maybe Hannah just wanted acknowledgement, and the kids were acknowledging her.
Yeah.
Or maybe she wanted her grave to be found.
You know what? If I experienced this would be a story that I would tell every single person I ever meet. I need to go take out a deposit at the bank. The bank teller is getting told this story. Everyone.
Oh, yeah.
Because how crazy to have that happen, and then the fire and then the headstone and it says Hannah. These are things that only happen in movies, right? Where it's you get the pieces, they just unravel and they fall into your lap and it's oh, it's all connected. In real life, it doesn't seem to happen like that very often, especially when it comes to the paranormal. So that is so wild.
The chances of people believing you too, I think, would be hard.
Yeah, some of the connections with the Conjuring House too. And I feel like the Conjuring House is a little bit of an anomaly where there are somehow some answers to some of these questions or people that you would think you would never discover their identity, but then they were.
Now I want to visit Garrett's farmhouse. Can we come stay?
I know.
Noah wants to stay too.
No, me too. We all want to.
Ghosts.
If you have a ghost story or anything relating to the paranormal, please email us at twogirlsoneghostpodcast@gmail.com. You can also support us by telling everybody about our podcast. Abduct your friends into the pyramid scheme and alien spaceship, which is the weirdness of Two Girls, One Ghost.
Did you say abduct? Abduct your friends?
Did. Abduct them in a paranormal podcast way as listeners.
Induct or that might be
No,
induct.
I intentionally said abduct.
Oh, I love it. Okay, let's abduct your friends in a consensual way into the pyramid scheme.
You can watch us on YouTube. You can follow us on social media to see what's new. And then if you're on Patreon, thank you for being a most haunted friend. And if you're not, you might want to check it out. We have one tier. It's $5 a month. Every single episode is released ad-free and 1 week early. You get audio and video versions of that. You also get one extra episode a month that's exclusive to Patreon. We go live weekly on Tuesdays to tell ghost stories. We check in with various lives. We book club, a lot of different activities happening over there. So check it out.
And rate and review us on iTunes and follow us on social media. But most of all, just know that we love you all so very much and we love your spooky asses. Continue to be them.
Shout out to Jamie, who edits our audio and video. We're so grateful for you. And to all of you, we will see you on the other side.